Chapter 9. Remy closed his eyes. Whatever Ava-inspired dreams he'd had carried over into his waking thoughts. They were all of Ava. Underneath. On top. Against the wall. God, how he loved her against the wall. And now, he couldn't seem to keep it together. Just watching her climb the steps had him clenching his fist to keep from reaching out. And then she glanced back and smiled. She knew. The little savage knew. Remy paused, remembering when he'd first called her that. She was frustrated then, never coming close to taking him down no matter how hard she fought. Hoping to use the element of surprise to her advantage, she waited for him outside his barracks. But he spotted her and swung around, just as she was ready to strike. Catching her wrist, he twisted it behind her, bringing him close enough to feel the warmth of her exposed neck. Little savage, he had whispered. From that day on, he called her that with an amount of affection he wasn't prepared for. And while she could never beat him with strength, she conquered every bit of his mind, soul, and heart, and now she knew she had the power to do it all over again. And he wanted it. He wanted it all. His muddled mind had given away, and now he saw Ava clearly again. Whatever scars were left were not from her. They'd heal better with her than without. If she was willing to give him another chance, then he would take it. Gladly. But a smile meant nothing without words or actions. A smile could mean anything. He wanted more than a smile. Now was not the time, however. Not with so many uncertainties. Although, when would be a better time? He could be dead tomorrow. Not that he wanted to think in those dark terms. Not being able to touch Ava when she smiled at him was its own form of death. While half of his mind whirled as to what was waiting ahead of them and possible outcomes, the other half pondered possible sex positions on a boat. It was a no-brainer then that Ava would win the battle raging in his mind. He wanted her. He followed her up on deck, thankful to leave the suffocating enclosed space below. Before she could reach the door to the pilot house, Remy caught her. With her mouth stuffed with sandwich, she asked,
"What?"
Grimacing at his schoolboy impatience, he let her go. Remy had been about to pounce on Ava, but she was quite content with her meal. Maybe the smile had meant nothing. He was determined to find out either way. However, he'd let her finish lunch first since he knew her stomach was a little savage as well. And then he'd test the water.
Ava took the last bite of the stacked sandwich and wondered if she should make another. She must be hungrier than she originally thought, and the way Brock stared at her made her wonder just how hungry he was. Warmth pooled and spread as she shifted under his watchful gaze. He sat next to her in the cabin, his finger restlessly tapping his knee as he caressed her body with his eyes. Ava was impatient for Brock to make a move. She had wished for this day, dreamed of this day, repeatedly reminding herself that she had a fool's heart. It would never happen because he had moved on. But she never could. Ava had tried, but no one had ever made her feel like Brock did. There was no replacing him or substituting him. He was the one. Suddenly, the chill from that realization seeped into her again, slamming the door on the warmth she had just bathed happily in. He had moved on. He no longer loved her. Brock. No, she had to think of him as Remy from now on. She loved Brock, but Remy was a different man who was amped up on nervous adrenaline. He only wanted her for quick and easy relief. Ava wasn't a girl that any man could crook his finger at and she'd come running. But for Remy? What if this was all she had? This one last stroke of intimacy from her love's ghost? Would it be worth it? Would it sustain her or make her an even greater fool? Needing fresh air, Ava stood and hurried to the door. Remy's arm shot out, capturing her.
Stay. We need to talk.
I need a few minutes on the deck.
I'll come with you.
No, I need to be alone, she said.
We've both been alone long enough. I'm sorry for that. I wish I could change the past, but I can only apologize for it. But so should you.
Me? Ava gasped. Why should I apologize?
The Ava I knew would have kept coming at me until she knocked some sense into my confused head. You didn't. You turned your back the same as I did.
I did not, she fumed. First, in case you forgot you were dead.
And then you saw me alive and well. Why didn't you do anything? We were at a shooting range with plenty of loaded guns. You could have had me on my knees within seconds. Instead, you walked away.
Ava rubbed her stomach, recalling her first flash of anger. You're lucky I did walk.
Afraid you couldn't win, even armed with a gun?
He taunted. No, I was afraid I would.
What made you leave?
She shook her head, fleeing to the deck to gulp down air. Sensing his presence behind her, she focused on the horizon, and not that he was within arm's reach.
Ava, I'm sorry. I really am. All I'm asking for is a bit of forgiveness. After prison, I wasn't the same. I was messed up. It took months for me to heal, and that was only my body. I'm still fucked up. I'm still.
He took a jagged breath. She glanced over her shoulder. So am I.
Remy read Ava's body language loud and clear. She wasn't comfortable with the conversation, and she didn't want him near. He had no one to blame but himself. Remy took the hint and returned to the captain's chair. He sunk down, giving his wobbly sea legs a rest. While it didn't quite go well with Ava, at least he didn't embarrass himself by heaving. Unfortunately, he didn't think he was in the clear yet, not with so many miles still to go. It was 20 minutes later when he heard the door click open. Ava stood in the doorway, looking as lost as he felt. He motioned for her to come closer, hiding his surprise when she did. He pulled her onto his lap and held her silently. She leaned against him and rested her head on his shoulder. He lost track of the time as they sat there, not wanting to say or do anything that could spoil the moment. He held on tight, hoping he'd get another chance at the end of the day and the next. While his first reaction after his nap had been to toss her onto the bed, now he didn't want to ruin this. It felt like Ava was his again. Remy knew it was temporary, having her back in his arms. Nothing was for certain, and the few hours they had left together on the boat might very well be their last. He hoped they wouldn't be. He hoped for more. Ava pressed heavily against him. He looked down to find she had fallen asleep. He smiled, kissing the top of her head, breathing in her clean scent. She trusted him again. And where there was trust, there was the beginning of a foundation. Feeling more content than he had in years, he relaxed into the chair, keeping Ava snug in his arms. Remy stirred, nudging Ava awake. She moaned and cuddled into him. Ava, he said, not wanting to startle her, but he needed her awake. Ava, wake up. He leaned over to pick up the binoculars from the console and peered through them. Damn. He kissed the top of Ava's head one last time before giving her a gentle shake. I spotted a ship, he said, his voice urgent. She cracked her eyes open and sat up, squinting at the open water.
How big?
He handed over the binoculars. 1 o'clock. She took them, scanning the horizon with the high-powered lenses.
It's an aircraft carrier,
she said, breathless.
It's bigger than I had anticipated. What are we going to do? We only have a little fuel, and that ship doesn't look friendly.
We knew it wasn't going to be friendly, Remy said, not voicing the rest of his concerns. An ominous chill set in. He took back the binocular to study the ship as it cut through the water, searching for a name or distinguishing marks. Armed men stood on deck. They were dressed in black with no identifying colors. That alone told him what he was up against, and it wasn't good news. The heavy weaponry both on their hips and slashed across their chests were top of the line and in excellent condition. Remy had the sick feeling these were a portion of the weapons stolen. Large crates were stacked on the deck, each with a logo. His breath caught as the view focused and he saw the logo clearly. Venom. Have you heard of Venom before? He asked. Ava didn't answer. Her concentration focused on the ship heading their way. Memories invaded before he had a chance to relax his mind. The word repeated over and over in thick accents. He didn't understand them at first, the language so choppy and forceful, like a hurricane in his head. When Remy finally did understand, he thought they were just repeating the word to add another layer of torture. It was effective if that was their intention. The word was permanently branded into his brain. They had wanted information on Venom, and Venom was sailing right toward him. Remy watched as an alarm scattered the men into position. They've spotted us, Remy said. Get below deck.
Why?
If they only want me, then they have no reason to come looking for you.
They'll expect me?
I'll tell them I came alone,
They'll board the boat. I won't escape.
she said, digging her heels.
And I didn't come to escape. I came to end this once and for all.
This is not the time to fight. We won't win, not by a long shot. Our only chance is to split up. Ava shook her head, protests forming on her lips. Remy stooped and kissed her, silencing and stunning them both. But like all things, it had to end. It was not meant to be. Remy tore himself away. I know you will come for me. It's the only way. We have no other options. Contact David and Boyer and get their help. Remy could see the conflict race across Ava's face. She reluctantly nodded. Go, hide.
Remy?
Go.
But
You can tell me when you come and rescue my ass. Her eyes widened, and a wry smile hinted on her lips.
you're such a tragic lass.
I will be if you don't find me, he agreed, keeping his tone light. But just knowing venom was closing in had affected him to a degree he was acutely uncomfortable with. Go,
I will find you.
she promised. He took one last glance at Ava as she hurried below, snapping the door shut. If she could find a decent hiding place, they might not find her. They could have spotted her already. But Remy didn't think so. He prayed they'd believe whatever BS story he gave them. Without the binoculars, he watched as the dot grew bigger until the carrier towered over him, eclipsing the sun and sending him into a cold shadow. Remy stood in the middle of the deck with his hands raised in surrender. At least now he would get some answers. He stayed silent as the men looked down at him, weapons pointed. The ship moved slowly alongside his boat, keeping enough distance so his boat wouldn't get tugged under their current. An annoying bead of perspiration formed on his brow as a speedboat launched from the ship, veering in his direction. Remy kept his hands raised as 3 men boarded. He knew their type, brash and quick to engage, and he didn't want to be unconscious or bloody for his detainment. Remy gritted his teeth as they gave commands in perfect English. No accent. The fucking bastards were American. Remy stamped down his anger. It wouldn't serve him to lose his temper now. Instead, he made a promise to find the person responsible and take him down. As 2 men shoved Remy to the speedboat, one went below deck. Remy didn't bother to try to stop him. Even if the man was able to find Ava, he wouldn't be conscious long enough to do anything about it. Remy hoped she'd evade the man's notice, though. He was counting on her. Once Remy and the 2 men had boarded the speedboat, the third returned without Ava.
It's clear,
he said, hopping over the rail and onto the speeder. Remy didn't dare breathe his relief. He knew they were watching him, waiting for any signs.
Light it,
Another said. A bottle with a rag shoved into the top was lit on fire. Remy scrambled, bulldozing one man off the side of the boat in his struggle to get to the Molotov cocktail. He wasn't quick enough. The bottle was launched.